Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your weeks this week, fellas?
I'm looking at you, man.
Man, I'm turning off my volume in my phone.
I checked mine right over.
That don't vibrate on the table.
Yeah.
Man, mine's been really good.
Yeah.
Really good, yes. A lot of great opportunities, a little puckering with some areas with some projects. You know, there's always something going on that's a little intense.
Yeah.
But that's my life. I love it. I take it. I get to do it. And so, big picture, man, I'm freaking blessed. I'm looking forward to the holiday season. October's coming around the corner. And I love the change in the season.
Yep.
And so things are good. Less mowing, that's always good.
Yeah, less mowing's always good. There's going to be a point where you get to just mow that one last time, right?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? I mean, it depends on how we go in the transition from fall to winter, whether you have to mow a few more times or less. But I that's the time in which, when it starts getting cooled off, I really start doing a lot more yard work to be able to get it ready. I mean, I'm not somebody that enjoys going out in the summertime and maintaining my property. I'm just not.
I just overseeded the front yard. We'll see how that goes. Got bad dirt, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, how was your week, Chad?
Started out not so good, but it's starting to pick up steam.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, gotta figure out how to get rid of those sleepless nights, and then we'll be okay.
Yeah. So, it's wakes and tides. Wakes and tides.
Yes.
Wakes and tides. Okay, so I know that you got some local stuff this week to talk with us about, for sure.
Where you want to start, man?
Well, I know I've been paying attention. All right, always am. Starting to try to be a little bit better about not barking at every car that drives by. I've learned to do that. So if people are like, man, Lance is a little bit more silent than he used to, it's like, well, trying to have a little bit more strategy, make sure the words that I use are pointed and at times in which I think will have the most impact. Otherwise, you're just talking, right?
You're right.
As one commissioner said, it's just noise. And that would be a city commissioner that I've had a dear relationship with for many, many years now. and it's just interesting. If I'm going to use my words pointedly, I would say that is about how that commissioner in particular feels about the majority of the public that does not agree with what they think or say. Is that if it's not in line with what I think, if it's not in line with what I agree with, if there's any criticism whatsoever that takes place that comes my way, it's just noise, people.
Sure.
Just noise. Wow. So, and that'll get into some of the conversation that we're going to have later on in the program. But what do you got for us, Chad?
Well, how much crap do you want me to stir up? I mean,
start with the Harvey County Commission, because that's near and dear to my heart too. It seems like everybody else is running on. I'm watching.
So
there's not a whole lot to criticize the school board about, Andy. I mean,
been a good 2 months.
But you know what? I can
compared to the last 3-4 years, it is. People are calming down. They're focusing on something else.
But I can stir some stuff up there if you want me to. I mean, I truly can.
I love it.
I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the beast. But no, right now, I mean, I guess the best way to put it is that this last weekend I lived out why we cannot allow ourselves to say we've made a decision on the budget, that's what it's going to be, and then not talk about it again until February, March, April. We just, this county cannot afford that. Just can't. Because I lived out in very real time and terms what goes on when you've only got 2 sheriff's deputies.
Oh, so you're saying maybe it wasn't the best idea to not heavily consider.
So if your primary interest is to get through a budget without a mill levy increase, which I think you guys have heard me say it over and over again, that's the wrong number to look at.
Yeah. Not spending more money. Let's just call it that.
No,
I'm saying if you look at it,
it's not about whether we spend more money or not.
True.
The mill levy has never been about whether we spend more money or not.
Agreed. But I was referencing if you're in a situation where you're trying to make sure that you spend no more. If that's your number one goal is to not spend any more money than you spent the year before, that's probably not the best way to consider what's going on in your community.
If that's your goal, then you have to look at the revenue neutral rate.
Yeah.
To be honest, you have to look at the revenue neutral rate. And this year in the county budget, trying to observe the revenue neutral rate would have led to an absolute bloodbath. There's just no two ways about it. Okay? That's the reason that the mill levy is the wrong number, because the revenue neutral rate does not set the mill levy. It doesn't. How much money you're going to spend sets the mill levy. And chime in if you think this analysis isn't quite right, because you've been through this budget process on one of these boards. The mill levy is determined by how much money you plan on spending. And when everything costs more, you're going to have to spend more money. On a year like this one, where the evaluations went up close to 13%, I mean, 12.7 to be precise, you're going to bring in more money when you leave your mill levy exactly where it is, which means you're going to spend more money by leaving the mill levy where it is.
Yeah.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all agree.
So the commission decided that they wanted to have a flat mill levy. Okay? The difficulty I have is that then the budget is also not viewed for what it truly is, which is a list of priorities.
A list of services to be given to the public.
It's a list of priorities.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, and it's hard. There's some hooks in there, but I think people want to look at it like a house budget.
Yes.
And that's not how this works. And it's also not all the way a business, which there should be some components that are strongly thought about that way, but it's public service money. And so it's not quite the investment that an average business guy would think about. And when they look at it and when they hear rhetoric about how we need to run the government more like a business, there's times when that's true and times when that's not. And then that's in the eye of the beholders, which is us as the people. The problem is we can't have those conversations
Right.
With an open mind and unpack real life situations, and then see how often does this type of situation happen and what is the percentage that we're actually losing here.
Well, it goes back to this. Anything that's a public entity that is provided as a service for the public does not make a profit.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't say 100% of the time, right? Because there are, I'm sure, some some instances in which the incoming revenue that is captured through fees or cost to whoever's wanting to utilize that service might, well, in some instances, somewhere, right? It's not an all or nothing. But parks, law enforcement, firefighters, ambulances, in many cases, hospitals, things like this, they do not run a profit.
Well, yes, but here's a big, let me throw this wrench in this conversation. We talk about this thing after listening to national news at a local level. Now, we can't, at this level, do anything about the money we spent in Ukraine, whether you're for or against that situation.
Correct.
Yeah. We spent a lot of billions of dollars. All the times those things are spent, there's pressure put on the system and money printed and devaluations that are happening with our money because they're printing money with no goods or services being provided, which weakens the dollar, right?
Agreed.
So you have all these situations going on and people want to take that concept and put it on our local county. And so a lot of the spillage and waste that people come and beat us up for is not quite happening here.
Right.
It's happening somewhere else, which is causing issues throughout our whole system. We're just the ones getting beat up, but most people don't understand how that flow works.
Yeah. Well, you're not the federal government. You can't just print money.
Right.
The USD 373 just can't print
Unfortunately,
money.
we have politicians, Democrats and Republicans in D.C. that are running that press like crazy on us. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, they're both full of it because they're both a part of the system that's doing it.
Which which then in turn creates an atmosphere of inflation, in some instances hyperinflation, which I honestly think if you look at the last 4 years we're at, it's nice to be able to say, oh, inflation has slowed. Let's take a snapshot of the last year and it's only, gone up this much. But if you look over the last 5 years, well, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's killing us.
Yeah.
But then...
Have you tried to buy a used car?
Yeah. Have you tried to buy a new car? Have you tried to buy a house lately?
And there's a reason I go to used cars. That nonsense started in about 2018. And then it went ballistic in 2019. Okay? What's the fact?
Do you remember why?
Oh yeah, I know exactly why.
I would say in a nutshell, could we all agree that it was the handling of the COVID pandemic and what we chose to do?
It's Ford screaming at the top of their lungs, we can't get the chips we need, so we can't build any cars.
Oh, there's another one.
That's it.
There's another one.
Okay.
Yeah, that happens with globalization and outsourcing our manufacturing to other countries.
And why is that a big deal? Because
that are that important.
Because each vehicle that they build, they have to make more money on.
Yeah. Or it costs
to
more
make up
money
for the fact that they can't build enough.
Well, and even if you kept, and see, this is the thing, and not to go national here, but there was some talk recently about how the grocer businesses are the ones that are responsible for this increase in all of these goods that we're buying at the grocery store. When in all reality, even if you kept your profit margin the same, you would wind up having to charge more money because things cost more money to make.
Glad you bring up grocery stores because here's the straight deal there, okay? They are one ingredient in the soup.
Yep. Fuel prices and costs.
Okay.
The whole,
Sure. And you know what? I'll give a nod to Donnie Baby because yesterday he made a comment that we have to take on energy prices. I want to know how we're going to do that. I don't want one sentence.
Don't get ahead of us now. Okay, we'll talk about this here a little bit.
Here's how all of this
meshes.
This is how I'm going to bring it all back to where I started. Okay? The county is subject to all these forces that we just talked about. And the sheriff's department is subject to all of these forces that we just talked about. And in our lust for a flat mill levy, we have forgotten that the sheriff's department is going to spend more money. Every department's spending more money. And these are the reasons why. And in order to get to the point where they could have a flat mill levy, they looked at the sheriff's department and said, hey, those 2 deputies that you want to hire? No. Now, that is not a budget cut.
I'll tell you.
It's not a cut. There was no real cut. Okay? And because they didn't want to make any cuts anywhere, they said no to 2 departments. They said no to the sheriff's department. They're not going to hire any more people. And they said no to the road and bridge department. You're not going to do more road miles this year. And within 48 hours, I had to live with the reality of that. And the county commission had to live with the reality of that decision.
Let me ask a question. This is wild. This is just a wild conversation. I want to kind of go upstream a little bit here.
Sure.
We're having a conversation about budgets at a local level, and you're breaking it down great. But let's get to the root of the problem. We have people that I personally was appointed to the school board, and my arrogant self said, watch this. And the first thing I did was go after those budgets. Because when you hear and you play the game that the media feeds you, or a provocateur, or this person that's traveling around with their shtick that's stirring the pot, making money while they're doing it, by the way. Both Democrats and Republicans both do it. They talk about these cuts and this overspending and all of this rhetoric. Then when you get in at a local level and you look behind the curtain, you go, holy crap. We need more money, not less.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll tell you,
and for me, I look at it and say, you need more people.
Well, but
That
here,
means
here,
more
let
money.
me finish this thought real
Yes,
quick.
and that does mean more money.
But where the cuts need to happen is in DC.
yeah. Yeah.
And we have people getting that twisted.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people talking like they know what they're going to do. And then after they're in office for 3 or 4 years and we have not cut,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're even realizing or have done the homework or understand what that looks like.
In a lot of ways, I wonder if it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to say this. I struggle with getting frustrated. That would be the best word to use.
I don't want to stay too much longer on this one, but because I think we beat it up, but I'm sorry.
Well, I do want to tell you what I experienced, because I think it's important for people to understand, because this is a local problem. Pig time. Okay? So here's what I experienced. I experienced the domino effect. All right? So you got Halstead that's only got 2 officers. Now, note that I didn't say on duty. I said 2 officers in town, including their chief. It's 9:35 on a Sunday night, and they had a situation where they had 2 juveniles to deal with. You've got 2 officers. Somebody has to make the arrest, or in this case, arrests. Somebody's got to file all the reports, and now all of that takes time. Okay? So what did they do? Exactly what they're supposed to do. They called the sheriff's department and said, we need help. The sheriff's department only had 2 patrol. That's what they had. So from 9:30 until almost 4:30 in the morning, all 4 of those guys were tied up by these 2 kids. All of them. And so I'm sitting and listening to a deputy looking at a guy saying, listen, you just need to cooperate. You need to understand we've got 547 square miles that we've got to patrol. And we got nobody out on patrol right now because we're trying to deal with you. You need to cooperate. So that 547 miles of patrol went pretty much uncovered for what? For almost 7 hours. And Halstead had nothing to do that they could do either. And the reason it was that away is there just wasn't people. They weren't there. That's why I say we can't just let this conversation sit. We need to keep talking. Mm-hmm. Because there was a need.
Mm-hmm. But Chad,
a very real need.
And I'll go with this and say this before we move on to the next topic. I truly believe that what we're seeing, and part of my frustration that I was talking about earlier was, there are certain people in office right now, and I'm not going to name any names, but it's obvious, where we're at if you're paying attention, is that the only thing they care about is making sure that they are servicing the need of a very small demographic of people whom they believe are there in their group. Let's just say that. Right? So then from there, all it's about is servicing their needs, whatever they say comes up, because that's what they're about. And then when it comes to making decisions that are going to be in the best interest of the community or in their best interest with the understanding that they're going to be reelected, they always fault with themselves. Okay, moving on. I did a little thing, right, with the HC Talk, and this will move kind of into our more national topics or whatever. But I saw a headline: ABC News debate moderator makes stunning admission. The whole thing was rigged.
What was your source on that, by the way?
Now, okay. See, this is what I wanted to do.
Let's do this.
I actually cropped the source out. Okay, and all I did is just left the headline and what it said underneath. Okay. Now it did talk about the fact, because there's some truth here, right? That during the debate, that the only one that was fact-checked was Donald Trump. Okay? And then there was some admittance there that when they went into the debate, they had planned on focusing on fact-checking Donald Trump because they didn't like the way that the last debate went with Joe Biden, in which case nobody was fact-checked, and they believed that Donald Trump threw out a bunch of baseless claims, in which case were never fact-checked, so people were led to believe it. So they felt that it was their responsibility. Now, the funny thing is how did we get from that, which was the truth, what actually happened, to then what this headline is? Because nobody admitted that the whole thing was rigged, right? So then out of this, one person began to ask questions on here. Where did you get the source? I was like, okay, now we're on to something. And then I said, here, and I gave 3 different sources, right? And they came back and they said, well, all of those sources are very questionable because those sources tend to lean one direction, which would be favorable for, let's just say, Donald Trump. Well, you get into this whole debate and the question then becomes, well, one's one and the other, right? You go back and you try to look it up. ABC, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, all of these other individuals. No, in fact, they all had the same headline, which was Trump throws out baseless claims of Haitian immigrants eating pets in Springfield, Ohio. And I thought, because we talked about this, this is the 2-part thing I want to talk about here.
Just to be the jerk.
Yeah, do it.
I'll be the jerk. The dude lied 33 times in 32 minutes, and they decided to go with that one.
Well, and I just have a question now.
I mean, come on.
Okay, but I have a question.
Where's that from? Where's those sources? What lies?
CNN.
I'm just curious.
See, okay, now I'm going to say
CNN they have a full-time fact checker.
Okay, but here's where I'm at. I'm with you.
He credited him with 33.
This is wild.
Nah. He was credited with 33 lies, and Kamala Harris was credited with 1.
But I would disagree.
And you don't see a problem with that?
And see, here's my thing, right?
Which one was she credited with, just out of curiosity?
Okay, but straight up, which one is a credible... Can you consider anything a credible source?
This is the point. This is the point that I'm trying to make.
But hold on. But just think about this. Do you remember the lie that Kamala Harris, they cited her, she said 1 lie and he said 33?
I have no idea what they charged her with.
So this is the thing, though. That right there alone, if you look at...
And sitting and listening to parts of the debate, I listened to him lie.
But I also listened to Kamala Harris lie. And here's what I'm going to say. Okay, we use strong words, strong rhetoric, okay? And this is what I think is interesting is it a lie or is it the truth that's presented in a way that would be favorable to what I'm trying to project onto everybody to incite my base? And this is politics in general.
Let's go back to this because we got something to work at. Let's do the debate.
Yes.
Let's talk about the debate.
Yes.
Okay, the debate. Was that fair?
The debate?
Yes. Was it a fair lineup?
I'd say no, personally.
Okay, what do you think?
I mean,
I didn't watch the entire thing, so I'm not going to make a determination as to whether it was fair or not. But I'm going to go back to a statement that I made earlier. Okay? And I'm pointing at every Republican lawmaker at every level, and I'm talking about 45 years of this crap.
Oh, longer than this.
Well, 45 years 45 years that I've been watching.
Yeah, I would say, in my opinion, both sides.
At the end of the day, if all you have is the big bad evil media was mean to me, you have lost the argument.
Okay.
Period. End of story.
But it goes both ways because here's what I think is just fascinating. Okay, back to this situation. I'm going to point this out. Okay, so we're gonna have this conversation. Do you guys believe that there are animals that are being taken by Haitian immigrants and then eaten?
How many Haitian immigrants were dropped in that community?
20,000.
And there were 40,000 there already?
Yeah, I think now I'm reading that was 60,000 and the 20,000 dropped, so I don't know.
Okay, if we're gonna start parsing it all out for rhetoric, how many of those are illegals?
Well, that depends on what you classify as what the federal government considers illegals, because technically they're refugees.
Which means they're not illegal.
Yes. But see, then we get into what is a refugee. So that goes back to, and I'm just going to make this clip before we move on, okay? Anybody that comes to the Mexican-American border who is a Mexican citizen and hops the fence, our immigration policy states that we put them back. We catch them, we put them back in Mexico. If you come from a country other than Mexico and you hop the fence, so to speak, and you come into our country and you claim that you come from a country where there is civil unrest, or whether there's war, or whether it's not, let's take, where is this not taking place in on the globe? I mean, somebody gets over here from Ukraine, or somebody, Russia or Africa or anywhere in the world, okay, that's having some kind of a conflict, Venezuela, Honduras, I mean, you name it, and they get over here, then they can ask for refugee status and then be considered. And since this is so backlogged, they allow them the status. Where they're in the country, they get refugee status, and then it's months, years before they're ever.
You want to hear something really inflammatory? You'd be amazed how quickly that status can be cleared up if you're white.
Maybe, but
no, I'm not.
Say this.
I'm being straight up.
No,
there is a family settling in Newton now, as we speak, from the Ukraine, and they have full status. They got it before they ever even thought of coming over here. They didn't know where they were going to go. They just know they were leaving the Ukraine, and they have the status.
But let's take this.
Somebody comes across the south border, and you can pick your nation. It takes years.
But let's say this,
the same church that is settling that family from the Ukraine has been trying to get an immigration status, the same status that was acquired for the Ukrainian family, and it's a family of 5, has been trying to get a married couple through that system for 6 years. Think about that. 6 years. And they just got told, we'll talk about it again in 4.
Okay, now I want to say this before, and I'm going to take it back to my initial question. Okay, I will say this, and I know I'm doing something wrong to you, Chad, because I'm not looking for a response with this. So to continue down the pathway, how many? And I want people to think about this. How many predominantly European countries currently, where some would consider the race being Caucasian or white, are in such a conflict that they would even qualify for refugee status, minus what's going on in Ukraine right now? Now, the question I had, and I posed, Andy, do you believe that dogs and cats are being eaten in Springfield, Ohio?
Yes, and it's hard to find, but it's happened. And there's some nuance here. You want to be inflammatory, but the truth is they have different customs than we do.
Yes, they do.
And there are different things that they do. And people in America can't understand some of this stuff because it's not something that we're used to. And so there is witchcraft, which is part of a religion. And some of that, in their religion, when you have 20,000 of them coming into a community, are going to hold and keep those things, which is their right to do, especially if they're here the right way. Now, we can get into an argument about all that stuff, but I'm not going there right now because we'll have to unpack that. The part I want to talk about is cultures and customs and things that are different. So my answer is yes, you can find that has happened, and it is out there. It's very hard to find in the mode of when you have Trump being flippant and ridiculous by saying what he said the way he said it, and where he's probably tying it from a few different reports that have come in, that there are audio recordings and stuff of people calling in of things that have happened. That's very hard to find, because when you have these search engines and you have these systems that are all playing towards election, which is most of them, either the right or the left has more of them, it's not hard to see. In my mind.
I'm going to make a statement as to what I think he did, because he does it a lot. He did it to me, and it infuriates me. Take the most extreme case you can, label an entire group of people that way.
So
It's a mode of
But tell me when
operation.
that
have a
doesn't happen
conversation.
both ways. See, this goes into the next part of what I want to group into this situation, this conversation. Okay, now we're into two parts because Chad, you're a news editor, right? So I want to go there. Trump plans to visit Springfield, Ohio, the site of his baseless claims about Haitian immigrants. Now, did they say they weren't true? No, they said they were baseless. And every time you look at an article, it says that it's unsubstantiated. There's been no credible sources. There's been no definitive conversation. It's no conclusion that we can actually make that this is happening. But I also say with Andy, that's where I was going, was to say that things are all or nothing. All or nothing is where we've gotten into this weird situation about how, like, for instance, what you're saying is true. Okay, the way that Trump said it could have been said differently. I agree. But for people to say that there's no instance whatsoever when this could be taking place is also not true. And they do it. They all do it. Just like, for instance, the one time somebody, let's say this. How many people immigrate here every year? Okay, this gets into the other topic.
Isn't it supposed to be 1 million?
Well,
we take in 1 million a year.
Okay, now, how
But
many of
this
those...
time around, the last 3 years has been
astronomical.
way more.
Okay.
It's like tripled.
Now, to say that there's not a percentage of those people that are coming into this country are intend to do us harm, are potentially terror cells or gang members or a Venezuelan gang or whatever the case may be, that's creating more crime in communities that otherwise wouldn't have them if they weren't here. That doesn't mean that everybody coming in the country is here to be a Venezuelan gang member, right? I mean, you catch what I'm saying?
But the unfortunate part is, in the rhetoric, we label them all.
Yes. But that goes to this. We're in politics right now, okay? And this goes back to the next opinion piece that I'm going to have in the Kansan, if Chad would grace me with that opportunity.
You just got to email me, man.
But the thing is like, let's ask ourselves, okay? And I don't want to get into the weeds here because we will come full swing. But what is a Republican? Write the definition down that you think is a Republican. What is a Democrat? Write down. What do they stand for? How do you identify? Write this down. Take this test. Put 100 people in here. And you know what? About everybody's answer is going to be different. There might be some of the key phrases that are the same, but it's this labeling that we do. And then the all or nothing, right? Kamala wants to take your guns away. Is that technically true?
No, it's not.
I mean, does she want? What the true statement is that she's somebody who believes in stricter gun laws in the way of making registration for everybody whenever you buy and sell a firearm, or making it to where that if you have a semi-automatic rifle, then you can only have so many rounds in it, and it's to prevent people from it's like this. They're all MAGAs. I mean, no matter where you look right now, no matter where you look, what you're talking about, Chad, is happening on both sides of the aisle. I mean, it happens in the Kamala Harris campaign, and it's happening in the Trump campaign. How is it not, gentlemen? That's what I'm seeing. Is that what you all are seeing?
Well, do you think Donald Trump will deport his own wife?
I think some people
I'm just asking.
Hold on.
Because that's
exactly what we were talking about, though.
That's that's one of the things that people are
on both sides.
Yes.
Like, so she's here illegally.
He wasn't talking about illegals.
But this is
He's
the
talking
nuance,
about
though.
mass deportation.
Yeah,
and
needs to happen.
Yeah, denaturalization.
Is it denaturalization, or is it people that are not
the
naturalized
word is
citizens?
denaturalized is in the plan. It is denaturalizing.
And whose plan?
It's in Donald Trump's plan.
Okay, this isn't Project 2025?
This is looking at somebody. This is looking at somebody and saying, you don't look like me. I don't think you came from here. And then you supply your papers, but your birth certificate says Venezuela. We're sending you.
But I disagree with that. I see that as being, just to challenge you, Chad, I see that as being the opposite of what others would say. Like when they start putting blanket statements on Kamala Harris and what the Harris-Walz campaign is going to do, or what they inspire.
But I mean, we just got into the weeds on immigration and illegal immigration, and this is wild what's happening right now.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no two ways about it, and we can sit and play with this argument all day long, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of people coming into this country that shouldn't be coming in the way they're coming in, and we need rules, laws, and regulations. I know some people believe differently. I don't believe that way, because when I go somewhere else, I'm supposed to write in and let them know that I'm there, and I got to check out when I leave. I mean, I was just in Mexico not too long ago, and they were very strict about that. And they made it easier for me to come and go now from what it was the last time I was there with their new systems. But if I was there longer than I needed to be, they'd let me know.
come find you.
Oh, 100%. And they would not be nice about it. I mean, so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
And I think the reason
but the news, and as a media guy, I think this is probably real close to the end of your barrel, because when you say 33 news cycles say that Donald Trump lied 33 times, Kamala Harris only lied one, and CNN's the resource for that, there's so many problems I personally have with that just because of what I've seen. And I pay attention to these things just like everybody else. And when you're in that world, I think it's different than when you're outside of it, because Donald Trump pissed off a lot of media people. I know several of them that are in the business.
Yes, he did.
including Chad.
But does CNN have something to do with that?
No. Let me give you some
Does
perspective.
Fox News have something to do with that?
Let me give you some perspective. That
You gotta
man
own that, though.
That man pointed at all of us.
Yeah. And
he
the people
called us-
need to separate themselves
he
and don't want to be a
called
part
us
of it. And when you
an
use
enemy of the
CNN as a
state.
reference, you got to own that too. I would not use CNN. I would not use Fox News. I don't trust any of them.
And here's my question.
And that's what's hurting the local media, just
Yes.
like the government
Yes.
in Washington
Yes.
and the FBI
Yeah.
in Washington is hurting our local officers.
Fox News,
And it's not all-
MSNBC, all of them
Yes.
have no idea how much harder they have made my job.
Yes,
Agreed.
but that's what you need to say.
Agreed.
And not be a part of their crap.
And I got a
We
question.
can't- So there's
But
a
you know
website
what?
right here.
When he did what he did, he also made my job harder. I'm supposed to forgive him
So
for
who's
that?
supposed to call it out, and why isn't media doing it? Why isn't media calling their own shit out?
When we call anything out, we get demonized. Period.
So don't do it and let it keep going? I don't understand that.
Well, I look okay. Can I say this? I'll say this. Okay, because I think this is a great conversation. that we're having.
Absolutely, it needs to happen.
And
that's
here's-
what we're
And
doing
by the
here
way,
today.
you never answered my question.
What was it?
And I have one more thing to say about the post that you put up.
Okay,
Which one?
the one that I did. The
It
little
was-
people in the yeah.
Okay.
It was labeled. Did you read the label?
Yeah.
Opinion.
Yes. But that is the stuff
what
that
is
I'm
not
trying.
opinion
But
nowadays?
and see, this is the thing. This is the thing. This is where I'm going, and this is why we're having this conversation. Okay, is that I'm to the point where literally I'm wondering if there's anything that you can even read or believe that's true. And when you go Google search something, I knew that was an insightful article. Okay, I knew that. I got 3 of them. I'm thinking, well, this is interesting because I know that this is not necessarily true, but it's presenting itself
Seriously,
as
did
true.
it come from the Hungarian conservative?
It could have come from the Hindustan Times. I mean, this is where I'm at. Okay, now let's say this. This goes into even more interesting topic of discussion that I'm sure we're going to have in the future, and it's that right now politicians in our own government are trying to push to where that they can and believe that there should be regulations on free speech because of this kind of stuff. And I argue to say this was the whole point. Okay. My opinion is such, affirmative opinion. You can just about not go anywhere and find any real non-slighted, factual, actual, credible information and news. That's why I subscribe to the Kansan, Chad. That's why I appreciate you as who you are and what you do. I'm not going to name names, but there's another entity that is in competition with you, and they play the same game. They've done it to me. They've done it to numerous people. They have this, headline article that entices people in, and then they slide it however they feel they want to slide it based upon their own personal agenda, and then call it news. That's what they do. They don't even have to tell the truth. I couldn't tell you how many times that I've sat there. I don't even subscribe to it anymore because I can't stand it because it's so baseless and there's accusations that are made and everything else. But that is why I subscribe to the Kansan.
Well,
that is
and
why I
here's-
read the Kansan.
well,
and local journalism
Let me
is
give
key.
you a
But
phenomenon.
you're different than most, Chad.
But let me give you a phenomenon that I have firsthand. This is firsthand. Go back in time, and the first person, all due respects to a former board member, the first person to report and document in print the practices of Frank Lindley as a basketball coach was me. There was no agenda. Okay? The agenda was, here's a piece of our history, people. That was it. Here's a piece of our history.
I don't agree. I don't
Everybody
disagree.
else assigned an agenda.
Well, of course.
And I can give you names of people who started assigning agendas.
That's because that's modern day journalism.
Okay?
That's modern day news, Chad. That's the problem that we're having and why we're having this discussion.
That is not about news. That's about the consumer.
I don't disagree. But then we go back to this, okay? And let me ask you something, okay, Andy, specifically pointed to you. Where does this lie? Is this because of an individual not having the ability to think critically and to read something and realize that it's not all or nothing, that they don't put their own biases in it, whatever the case may be? Does the responsibility lie on the reader, or does it rely on the messenger?
There's mass manipulation going on. Fact. There's a conditioning taking place. So I'll take it back to, I'm going to go at it from a business angle and kind of using some of the stuff that I picked up from people with conditioning individuals in a marketing capacity, because that's what a lot of media is, especially today. It's about eyeballs and attention and clicks, and that's evolved and changed over the years. But it's also become a tool, just like any union has become a tool at some point. It starts off usually with good intentions, and eventually people get a hold of it that start seeing it could be more and a different type of tool, and they use it for their own needs and wants and beliefs. It happens since the beginning of time. So to explain that is like McDonald's, right? The first McDonald's that opened up overseas in another country, and how they had to, if you read about that, it's pretty interesting, when they would go through the drive-thru and they realized that they needed to condition those people of how that worked. It's second nature to us in America because we saw the evolution and we were a part of it. I've been a part of technology for a while now. I was blessed enough to be a part of the handover generation where we began to build it and we began to use it differently. And there's a machine sitting over there from 2009 that was a touchscreen system before iPads were out. Touch screen phones were weird still. And I've been a part of the back end of that. So I've seen this evolution, and it's just when you're in it every day and you see what's happening and you understand algorithms and what's going on, you take it for granted that people don't know that they're being conditioned. And it's shocking sometimes when you step out of your bubble, just like anybody else in their field, and they go and try to relate it to the rest of the world. But there's no doubt that there has to be engineers hired to build a platform like the one I have on my phone right now that we'll talk about later. And the reason they built this platform is because media is so manipulated on so many layers. If you remember what happened with Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard, whether you like each one of them or not, or whatever, when that debate had that happen, and what Google did to Tulsi. That's Google.
Yeah.
That is what a lot of people use to go search for information. If you can't see the biases after all of those things, and those aren't maybes, and it's not conspiracy, it happened. There's lawsuits that are in courts that will never get fulfilled because of the lobbying and the money and all the stuff that's out there. But it's a scary time, and it's interesting to watch people shuffle through it. You have Elon Musk buying X, and you got all that drama going on there.
I just muted him today. I'm just tired of him.
Yeah. See? But that's a media person.
I'm just tired of him.
I love it. Well, and here's the thing. Okay, it comes back to this though, Andy. Pointed question. Does the responsibility lie in the reader or the messenger? Now,
People won't do the work.
Okay, and see, here's the thing, right?
Because it
comes down
doesn't
to
matter what the messenger says. That's a big statement, right? You will receive that message through your own lenses. I can't crawl into Andy's brain
But it's
and know.
conditioned, though.
I can't crawl into your brain and figure out what's in there. I can't crawl into your brain and figure out what's in there. If I write the sentence, on Monday the sky was blue, I honestly do not know how you will interpret it or you will interpret it. But you will interpret it.
Well, we'll all have a mental picture of what that blue looks like. That goes back to the imagination.
So the responsibility is on the conditioners.
And people try and be clear, but
so there's different ages of different people that consume media differently because of their conditioning. And you still have people with cable TV, unbelievable, but it's out there. I haven't had cable TV in 15 years. But to some people, they can't see any. They don't even know there's another form of ways to consume.
Well, yeah.
There's so you got that demographic, and you've got different groups, and you've got people lobbying. It's not shocking to me when I sit down with people and we have a conversation, and let's just say they're in the age group of 60 to 75. And unless they're different than the masses, which is not very many, they give you their spiel, their political views, and why they hate X. And you start asking them questions on how they're consuming and where they're consuming their information from, and you realize, and this for me has been a 10-year deal. Mm-hmm. So this is not just a year ago. And I've seen the evolution of these things happen. And that's why there's companies like this one that are doing what they're doing. And what they're doing is they're grabbing 130 news sources from around the world, and they're combining all the top stories that float to the top within regions, within areas, and the algorithms that have been written by engineers that know how to write code differently than the traditional AI, because even traditional AI is messed up. Because if you go to Siri or if you go to Alexa, she's biased. He's biased.
Well, because of what they put in the background.
100%. And that's real. Yeah. And you don't see these things on TV. Sometimes you don't even know if it's real because people manipulate that when they ask it a question. Or it'll choose not to give you information on a specific question you ask, but it'll choose to give you another piece of information that's good on somebody else. That is a true exercise. I have one right there. I got off. I thought that's too much. That's fake. I did the same exercise. It told me the same answers. That's AI being manipulated. That's media being manipulated. Yeah. That's Google being manipulated. That's X being manipulated. That's Facebook being manipulated. That's Instagram being manipulated. That's Disney manipulating ABC that owns this, that owns that. And there's all these chains.
Yeah.
And you have a local media guy pissed off because Trump got bad because he's trying to tell people in his flippant way with shorthand speak like he does that there's a bunch of manipulation and people don't know it.
It's listening to us right now.
Yeah.
You said Siri or
no, but this is a good point. That was not planned.
No, yeah.
But this is what we're doing.
I love it.
But as a local media person, if I could give you as a friend and as a person that I work with in this community and somebody that I love your heart, I know who you are. Be careful that you're not too close to the end of your own barrel for media purposes, because you're in the thick of a war right now in our local entities. And this is the perfect example to bring in what we were talking about national politics and local politics. This is a perfect way to disconnect from that and separate our apples and oranges and then try to be better and different than what we're getting.
Well, and I'll say
because
too,
CNN and Fox News are both full of it.
Let me tell you something that is paining my heart right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I reported on the mural project that's coming to Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
And because I am who I am, I wrote a complete story. And I let people know why this is happening, where this came from. And I also wrote the following sentence. The committee has never discussed whether or not to remove the name or change the name of the gymnasium. Okay? It is that blunt. You know, sometime within the next few weeks, somebody's going to come into the Board of Education and yell at you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll go with this, Chad. Something that is different to and while we're talking about this as friends here in this round table, something that I hope that you shy away from is being put under the same umbrella for the negative things that are taking place on a national level versus what's actually taking place on a local level. We've talked a lot about the Kansan and what the Kansan does. You are the base foundation, okay? You're not the second, third, fourth, fifth hand. Let's see if we can spice this up. I could go out here and have Newton News, and I could say my headline could be committee will consider changing the name of Lindley Hall. Because I saw one blip that you put in there that then gets manipulated around so people click on it. And I guarantee you, I'll get way more likes, shares, and comments than the actual article will.
Oh, you guys have no idea what happened to me when I wrote, man arrested for having sex with car.
Oh, wow. I remember that one. Well, here's the thing. Thank you for that.
That was so brutal.
Well, and this is the thing, but you are on the foundation.
We can go back even further. Son of Board of Education member now on sex offender registry list.
Yeah, that was hard.
Well, there's been some. Okay, but but here's this. Okay, but Chad, it goes back to this. You're on the ground floor.
All that was the fact.
Yeah.
Well, and here's what I would like to. I just want to say, for the fact that you are open to these conversations and you've given your life to media and you sit down with knuckleheads like us, but I do have an interest for my local community. I am a small business guy who just loves the people that I'm around. And I want to make the world a little bit better than when I found it. And I've got long ways to go to do that. But Chad, you have such a powerful pen and system that can really affect our culture here, and you know that, and you're doing it, and you're wielding it for the best, for the best of your ability, for the greater good of the whole, knowing you have to do what you have to do for your business too, because it is a business. That's why we need subscriptions.
Very much.
That's why we need attention. I personally appreciate, but I do believe it would be hard if I was you, given the years that you've spent your life building this craft and this working in this company, in this community, and others, you've got experience and they lean on you for that. To hear, and I understand why Trump pissed you off on that note, or pissed you off where you're like, oh, screw him, because everybody needed to band up against that rhetoric. But there's a lot of you guys that shouldn't have taken that hit, but you did, and you are still taking it. But
and how do that hit will never go away.
Yeah, and how do we separate that though? And to the reality of kind of the truths that you were talking about when you started this conversation. What is the reality of the statement? Was he all the way wrong? And was he all the way right? And the answer to both of those are no.
That's correct.
But the reason he was saying it at that platform, at that level, is because there was, and a lot of people were very unaware of all the corruption on the back end.
The problem with that statement is it was an all or nothing statement.
Yeah. Could be perceived that way.
No, it's not could be perceived that way.
I didn't perceive it as like when I heard that.
You know what? And here
when I heard it, I heard it towards CNN and those, and then it started.
Oh, we're talking about the news one.
His words were nothing but an all or nothing statement.
Okay, I was taking it.
He didn't look at Yeah,
I know. I was thinking in my mind.
Maybe, but I heard specific, and I heard him clean up, and I've heard him since.
And I'm tired of politicians who think they got to clean it up later.
All of them.
Yeah, and he's not a politician. Just to be.
No, he's a politician.
He chooses to be.
He is now. Shouldn't be.
He became
not necessarily a great politician, but
no, he shouldn't be.
And Andy,
but this is where we're at.
Andy, you are a politician.
Unfortunately,
yeah,
I have become that.
And you are a politician. My point is this.
Oh, that hurts to hear that.
It does.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's because they made it a dirty name.
And my point is this, especially when it comes to Donald Trump. He became a politician the moment he came down the escalator. He became a politician. When you run for office, you have become a politician. I am tired of people, and pick your level of debate and forum. Well, I'm not a politician. Yes, you are. Well, you are running for office.
That's because they know what the dirty name of politician is. And I'll say this. I'll take it a step further, Chad, and say there are people that have never run for office that are also politicians. Anybody that wants to, your central committee, your chair, your vice chair, your secretary, your treasurer of a county politic, your individuals that go out, subcommittees. This is, and see, this is where we're at, is words are constantly changing. It goes back to what was media of the past versus what is media today. Entirely different. The definition of a Republican of yesterday is not the definition of it today. The definition of a Democrat is not the same as what it was yesterday. A classic liberal is now a moderate Republican, and a Democrat is now, dependent upon how you look at it, an extremist, or a Republican is an extremist, and in between, we're all stuck here in between. Now, let's say this. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this really comes down to, and I will say this in my education, I will stand on this has evolved from the usage of identity politics. Identity politics is ruining us, because if I identify as a farmer and this politician says I'm for the farmer, then I say, well, they're for me. And everything they say and everything they do, I attach myself to that. Same with Republicans. Same. Words have power, and we're in a situation where it's identity politics, which brings me to this. Which one of you would listen to Taylor Swift and what Taylor Swift has to say about who they are or are not going to vote for?
That's funny.
But this is the deal. You don't. Andy doesn't. Maybe I think that she shouldn't have any place to this, but I'll tell you this.
But she has every right.
Equal right.
She has every right.
Yes. Here's what I'm saying. I am tired of, because somebody is an actor, then they want to weigh in on politics, even though they have the slightest idea. They don't have the slightest idea about real world stuff. It's like you've got these actors and they're weighing in on this controversy or that controversy, or what we should or what. Now, everybody's got an opinion, okay, but it goes back to the Tyreek Hill. The best thing that I heard somebody say about Tyreek Hill and Colin Kaepernick, and it actually came from my son, and it was that if they're there to do a job, they're there to do a job. They should do their job. Nobody else can hop up out of this vehicle and take a kneel because they're protesting some right and still have their job. So with these people that are in a situation like this, what they should be doing is they should keep that for their own personal projection instead of
I can't disagree more.
Shoot.
But who listens? No,
the First Amendment cuts both ways. And everybody has that right.
So what I'm saying is more of an opinion.
It doesn't matter if they agree with you or not. The best way I ever heard this described was by my high school civics teacher when we were being lectured about the First Amendment. And he said, I'm going to sum it up for you right here and right now. I'm in a class at a private high school, and every single one of you is a Mennonite, and every single one of you is a pacifist. And you have the right to say that at the top of your lungs, and you can go out the front door to do it. Guess what? The Catholic down the street has every right to walk right up to you and say you're wrong.
And I'm not in disagreement with that.
And has every right to advocate for something that you stand vehemently against.
And here's where I'm talking to the. Let me clarify to make sure that I'm not getting anything wrong here, because I'm feeling that maybe I didn't communicate correctly. Okay, but what I'm saying is if you're somebody that is voting for whoever Taylor Swift is voting for, because I'm a Swiftie, okay, we've gone back a few steps in our society.
And they have that right.
If you do the percentage, yeah. I mean,
they have the right to do it.
They have the right.
They do.
I'm not taking anybody's right away. What I'm saying is let's be critical thinkers. This ties into everything we're talking about, which is, well, CNN said this, or NBC said this, or ABC said this, so this is it.
The thing is, it's a personal capacity there's a lot of things I don't do because of things that I'm doing right now with other people that I don't want to put that on. So that, and again, that's a personal, who am I to say? I have strong opinions about it. But the cool thing about this country is, who are we to say you should or you shouldn't? Because she does have the right, and that's pretty cool. But the other part is eventually the market is going to tell you if you shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
And that's where we independently can come up with my little silly things that I do. Like, there was a time when I didn't buy Nike for a year, and neither did anybody in my family, because I chose to do that in my own house. I didn't judge any of my friends for doing it. I will say there was about 3 weeks when I saw certain friends and I was like, how the hell did you just buy that? In my own head. Did I say it out loud? No, I didn't.
Oh, the whole Bud Light thing?
Oh, I didn't buy Bud Light. I'm still
drinking the same thing.
You know what? I'm still drinking Corona. And they lost me. But then you look at who owns all this stuff and you're going, I'm kind of still giving them money anyway.
I can't do it. Monopolies. But I mean,
at least I don't have a Bud Light in my hand.
Yeah. And I'll go back to this.
But I did that, just because screw you. And that's my way. And in America, you can do that. I mean, there was a grape thing with Cesar Chavez. My family, some of my family members today will not buy grapes because of what happened back in the movement when they were dusting over farmhands while they were picking grapes and putting chemicals on them and all this kind of stuff. When there wasn't regulation, that union was started to do amazing things to help people that were literally my family members. And at the end of the day, you see what the unions turned into. And I was marching and the stuff that they were promoting, and I was like, I can't march with you anymore. You bastardize things that he stood for. You don't even know the man you're marching that started all this.
Yeah.
You don't even know his values, and I can't do that. And I don't have anybody that they'll listen to me because they're getting pushed by donations, by other unions, and they team up with these people that have ideologies that has totally screwed up the nature of the man who started it and the beautiful prayer that he put together for farm workers that I love to be a part of when they say it before the march. But I have foregone those things because I don't agree with what they're doing. That is my choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll take it back to this.
Those are those individual rights that you have to hold on to, but they're individual rights.
I'll be the politician here that we've all criticized. Okay. And needing to walk back what I said. I realized what I said and how I should have said it differently. So here's some accountability. I shouldn't have said you shouldn't do this, because that was what I was trying to project, is somebody that is the base model that says, oh, well, my precinct committee person came to me and demonized a candidate and said things about them, so I'm not going to go and believe anything except for what they told me, and that's all I got to do, and they tell me who to vote for, and I vote for them. On a local level, on a national level, it's, well, Taylor Swift, and I love Taylor Swift, and I'm all about Taylor Swift, so this is what she says, so this is what I'm going to do, this brainless following. We should take the time to use critical thinking skills, to research, to do our own research, to do the best that we can to find credible sources, as difficult as that is, as we have talked about throughout this situation. But also, it comes down to the believer. And this comes on to our next thing I want to talk about, which I'm sure is in the news for everybody to be able to know. But, this is a slippery slope. And we have come down this so quickly. I think that it's if we really identify it for what it is, it's starting to create a very divisive and problematic situation in our country currently. And that is that I believe what I'm told. Trump wants to take away my rights. Kamala wants to take away my guns. Trump wants to do this. Kamala wants to do this. And so because we've sit here and we've gotten into a situation where we demonize, and it's this effort to demonize either candidate, and this is something that happens on a national, this happens at every single aspect from top to bottom when it comes to politics, is that we want to vote for the lesser of two evils, therefore the race is on to demonize the other candidate more than myself. We're not voting for people based upon what they can contribute and can do 9 times out of 10. There's always an exception, just like we talked about at the beginning of the program. It's the fact that, well, how often do you, and I've had it happen to me too, we're going to say the most detestable, horrible things about this person. We're going to do whatever we can to make this person look the worst that we possibly can. We're going to label them every way that we possibly can. And then eventually somebody who may not be all there, just maybe a little bit of mental health or loose screw in there somewhere, decides, well, this world would be better off if that person was gone. I should just go get, well, the news reported an AR-15 style, even though it was an AK-47. So then it became an AK-47 style. Whatever we need to do to be able to manipulate that over into, thinking that people shouldn't have a gun because, there's millions and millions of guns out there, and most of them day to day don't create any kinds of problems. I mean, they lay there locked up in a cabinet, and they don't get anybody, they don't walk out and do a school shooting or walk out and try to shoot the president. But bringing it to this, it's this rhetoric, it's this demonization, it's this constant hatred that tries to be birthed in people that, once again, go back to what we were just talking about, who are not thinking on their own. They're just recipients. And then they go out and they lay in a bush for 12 hours to kill the president, or try to kill a former president for the second time.
Did he actually fire a shot?
Yes.
No.
I thought he did.
No, the guy didn't fire a shot.
But the Secret Service...
The Secret Service fired a shot at him.
Four
shots.
Okay. So he never actually fired a shot.
But what is that?
Because that goes back to where the name... Okay, shots fired while the president...
He didn't fire a shot, but he was intending to kill him.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Interesting how even myself was misled by the headline.
The very, very first news report came out that shots were fired.
And that's the one I caught.
And the one that...
Nah, it didn't credit who fired any shots.
Well, because then it goes back to trying to clickbait me, and they clickbait me, guys.
Shots were fired.
It's a mess.
Build the story.
Yeah.
Shots were fired.
You know what I heard?
Uh-oh.
I was watching.
Do you know what I heard? This is where you go. This is where you go. It's but worse than a first grade classroom. Go around the circle.
Yeah.
And what do you have at the end? Oh, well, it's a mess. And that's why the reactionary stuff needs to take a chill pill.
So
patience is not bad in these situations.
We've spent a bunch of time on media today. And there's a reason that I just went through the exercise with you guys. There is an intense pressure to be first. Okay? And the pressure is to be first. If you're right, it's a bonus.
Good call.
Okay? So, I can't remember what I was watching that night that they broke in, but it was an NFL football game, I think. I don't know. But they were first, and they were right, and unfortunately, because of how they were right, everybody came to it with their own conclusions. But there's intense pressure to be first.
And that's the market in which you're in.
Okay. It's a lot of energy.
Yeah. So when a threat is called in or posted to Instagram for USD 373, the pressure on these shoulders, be first. Be first.
Breaking news.
And to put a real fine point on it, we posted on our website 14 minutes after. 14 minutes. I had 14 minutes to try and be first. How do you do that? You do that by saying, doggone it, I got this email from Carly. I hope she's right. And I know she is, because she's really good.
Yeah, that's her job.
She understands the system.
Yeah.
Well, she comes from it. Okay? The one thing she didn't do that she's done in the past is sent a text out. Because she's done that. Okay? And also Erin over at the city does this. Erin is really good about this. And the first time she did this, the text I got was, check your email. Local privilege. It's going to Wichita in 10 minutes. Again, pressure for first.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right?
It's good that y'all work together like that.
Was it an AK-47 or was it an AR-15? We don't. It's been reported both ways.
It was a boomstick.
Well, it is an AK-47,
okay, but it's been reported both ways.
With the scope.
Yes.
Why is that? Why has it been reported both ways? There's another little thing that people need to keep in mind. Every one of the reporters who dealt with that, okay, because they have not completely sold their souls to AI yet, is a human. It could have been as simple as a typo. I mean, straight up, this could be as simple as a typo. The challenge is the correction that comes later. If you have factually screwed up, you've got to make a correction. The unfortunate part is you were first, you were out there, and now everybody who follows you is running with what you've sent. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, it's media. It's its best. I mean, that's it. But once again, I'm gonna say and answer my own question and come back to this. I believe that in my own accountability, let's do our final words because we're coming to the end of the program.
Sure.
I'll go first because I got this on my mind. I just want to make sure that I get it off and formulate it the right way. Okay. My final word is, you as an individual, you as a listener, you as a consumer, me personally, if I hear something about whatever, if I read something about whatever, let's say I hear the most dastardly thing about a specific political candidate, okay, because we're in political times, that what needs to happen is before I regurgitate that information, I need to do a little bit of fact checking. And sometimes it's best not to say anything, but just to let, like Chad said, some time pass. And the reason why is because in my own personal life, I'm not responsible for the gossip or the slander that I hear about somebody. I'm only responsible when I regurgitate that information. I do not want to be complicit in that. I do not want to be complicit in that. So therefore, I try to do my best. And being human, this program, the whole thing, what we're doing here, everything that has to do, we try to do our best. We try to do our best. And we have challenging conversations on here, and they're only going to get better, folks, about how we as a human race move forward with everything that's constantly changing all the time. And the only way that can happen is that if you open your eyes, you wake up, and you think. Chad, we'll give Andy the last word. What's your last word, my man?
I can't wait to see the mural design. That's my last word. You know, it's almost 100 years that Newton at least should have been dealing with this. And I find it a privilege to be the fly on the wall watching that process. And I cannot wait to see the mural design. That's my last word.
Cool. Andy, you got the last word.
I'm going to run off of that track and say I'm going to give you the name of the artist to call him. He has inspired me at levels that I think are next level. Very thoughtful, very humble, very bright human that is unassuming as they come. But don't get it twisted. That man's got a lot in there. And this town raised him and brought him up, and he loves it. And I can't wait for him to unleash all of that into this mural. So I'll give you that name. Looking forward to seeing what comes of that. Okay.
Yeah, I already know. I don't have his phone number, but I do know him.
I would love to get you two together. He's just an amazing human on a lot of levels, and he is super wise. Just a good human, like most Newtonians that came from his era. Most Newtonians in general. For me, this was a great conversation that we had, Chad. It was interesting for me to see that part of you defending your media and then the layers and levels. And I think it all came together in a real interesting way that I didn't expect, talking about breaking out from the beginning, which the overspending in the Washington swamp area with the Democrat and Republican crazies and what's going on there. Me wishing that there was another party of somebody that would just be real and kind of really break that machine and just be us again and be able to have hard talks and debates and fight like hell for freedom of speech, because at the end of the day, that's what we are doing here right now, is we're just able to speak our minds, put it on the table, and thank God for this country for giving us that opportunity to debate hard things, to make each other better, make our communities better, make our individuals better, and God willing to make the world better one step at a time. So really, really loved our conversation today. I'm looking forward to topics as they come. Thank you for inviting me back again. I love being here with you guys, and I look forward to the next time I'm here to chat it up with you guys.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lance. Thank you, Chad.
You're welcome. I'll just say we're getting better. We're doing our best, and we'll get better as we move along. We're trying to take our personal responsibility and move forward with it. So hopefully we have more conversations just like we did today. Have a good week, everybody.